It's interesting, right? Because just rereading One Piece, sometimes you stumble upon things. Sometimes One Piece gets bashed. It gets destroyed on social media. But one thing that remains true, something that people can't deny, is just how amazing pre-time skip was. And honestly, as a One Piece fan, I don't think I even understand how amazing pre-time skip was sometimes. And that's what happened recently. This was just so crazy, just rereading these span of chapters, that I just had to let you guys know just how I was thinking about this entire thing. So this mainly involves chapter 232, chapter 233, and chapter 234. And it goes back to a topic I've discussed before as far as the reputation of a Yonko, but I think what I want to focus in on here is perception and reality. And that goes hand in hand with Yonko's reputation, what the reputation represents. But let's dive a bit deeper, okay? And let's start from chapter 232. And this is the 100 million man. And this is the chapter where Bellamy finds out about Luffy and Zoro and their true bounties, right? So this is the start of that whole theme of perception versus reality, where they felt like based on Luffy and how he looked, and then of course going off of his old bounty, they had a certain perception of Luffy. But the actual reality was Luffy was a 100 million berry man and Zoro was a 60 million berry man. Right? So both Zoro and Luffy had higher bounties than Bellamy, but he didn't realize it. But that was the perception they gave because they didn't fight back at the time. Of course, reality hit Bellamy like a truck when Luffy planted his fist in the middle of his face. That will not be the last time this happens to Bellamy. However, let's move forward. Chapter 233, the highest powers of the world. Something profound in that chapter that, people mention from time to time, but just want to highlight it here. Nami asks Zoro, hey, why didn't you go? And then of course Zoro goes back at her and says, well, fight, don't fight, just make up your mind. And then they said, well, they beat you too. And Zoro said, beat me? Those guys weren't even blocking our way. A fight that would only leave pity is too painful to bother. In layman's terms, they were not even worth me picking up my sword, right? Just a beautiful transition from the perception reality conversation where Zoro goes a bit deeper as to why him and Luffy would not even raise a fist or a sword in his case against someone like Bellamy, or of course not even his crewmates. And then of course Luffy's comment about going to the sky, perception and reality there as far as what people think of individuals who want to go to the sky versus what actual pirates, actual warriors, what they think of warriors who go to the sky. And then warriors who accomplish the feat of going to the sky, how it changes the outlook on just the ecosystem and the environment, knowing that people are actually existing in the sky. Just amazing transition, but it doesn't end there. Literally in the same chapter, Ace meets Buggy, right? And of course, Ace, Portgas the Ace, is the second commander of Whitebeard's ship. He's the commander of Whitebeard's second division. Buggy knows who he is, and Buggy knows who Whitebeard is. Buggy understands the reality of the situation. Ace's actions, and him literally falling asleep while eating, has everyone around him, everyone working with Buggy, questioning, is he really the commander of Whitebeard's second division? Because the current perception of Ace is that there's no way he could be a division commander. And of course, then we get the amazing information about Whitebeard being the strongest pirate in the world as of now, the closest to One Piece. I want you to remember that. Let's transition again. We meet the Gurusei, and we also meet two warlords initially, Doflamingo and Kuma. And of course, the topic of conversation is discussing Luffy, Blackbeard, and just the gap left due to the loss of Crocodile. In chapter 234, Doflamingo, of course, is fucking around with one of the Marines. Suru tells him to stop. Sengoku comes in and he tells him to stop messing around. And then he says, have you come today to wage war against us? And then he says, forgive me for not greeting you all at first. I'd like to thank you for coming today. Scum of the seas. And what I love about this dialogue is Doflamingo's response, but more so Kuma's. Because Doflamingo says, well, aren't you pretty high-minded? Because you're calling them the scum of the seas, but you're working with the scum of the seas. You're literally at a meeting with the scum of the seas. So just in that statement, you see the irony and just the hypocritical nature of the world government. It's like a microscopic view of just how people rationalize bullshit. But then Kuma responds and says, still, he has hit the mark on his head, which basically implies we're pretty much the scum of the seas, which goes back to Kuma's personality and his perceived history about about him being a tyrant back in the day, but it seems like he's on a path of redemption. Because Sabo even explained Kuma as being a very kind man and a kind person, completely opposite from what the world thinks about him. Of course, his like incredible stature and his overpowered devil fruit adds to that, but it was just amazing dialogue. But let's continue. Again, the entire meeting of the world government with the quote-unquote scum of the seas, just such a weird meeting that even Mihawk calls it out, saying, well, you're calling Marines and warlords together at one table, two competing powers. I can tell this would not yield any successful discussion. And I like Mihawk's approach, but I feel like Mihawk is such a straightforward person, and this is like a small example to demonstrate that, in which in this whole back and forth in these few chapters as far as perception versus reality, the perception is that Mihawk came there because he was summoned. Without any hesitation, he told them exactly what he was there for. His entire purpose of being there was solely because he was interested in the pirates being discussed, and that was all. So that goes back to the nature of Mihawk, where for him, and then his title as well, there's really no doubt about him and his powers, right? Where he is no doubt the world's strongest swordsman. Something I noticed as well. And then of course, a cool thing in here as well is Lafitte coming to lobby for Blackbeard, where now we're hearing more about Blackbeard, who we heard about from Ace in Drum Island. So now, playing again with perception versus reality, Blackbeard wants to join the warlords. Of course, we're caught up, so we know what happens. Blackbeard, at this point, the perception is that he just wants to be a warlord, he wants the clout, he wants the fame, but the reality is Blackbeard is using them so that he can get to Impel Down, so that he can bolster his crew for the end goal of getting Whitebeard's devil fruit. So 232 Luffy, remember Luffy met Blackbeard. 233 Ace met Buggy. Buggy talks about Whitebeard and his division commanders. 234 we get Lafitte lobbying for Blackbeard as far as him becoming a warlord. A strange thing about this entire thing is that Lafitte casually strolls up to Marijoa and they're not alarmed at all. So for me, I'm like, is Lafitte a sword member? Like, what the hell is going on? But Suru says you must be Lafitte, right? They were not surprised at all. It was just like, oh, you must be Lafitte, right? Like, what the hell? Is that not a big deal? But anyway, I think the panel that summarizes and just puts this all together is another transition in this same chapter in which Rockstar is delivering a message to Whitebeard from Shanks, of course, and he mentions it's probably about Ace and Blackbeard. Like, just the amazing transition of these chapters is just top tier. It's just so good when you go back and read these chapters. And the panel of Whitebeard, right, hooked up to all these devices. It looks like he's getting an EKG done at the time, and the nurses are telling him he needs to stop drinking and worry about his health. And at the same time, he's introduced as the strongest man in the world. Whitebeard. Do you understand just how insane that is? The strongest man in the world. And a lot of people perceive him that way, as talked about by Buggy a few chapters ago, when we get introduced to him as the strongest man is literally on life support, in which he's connected to all these machines, which obviously speaks to his overall health. What the hell? The perception of Whitebeard, again, is that he's the strongest man in the world. But when you see him and see how he's aided by all these different things, is he really the strongest man in the world? And I like that Mihawk, that whole dialogue about Mihawk and, you know, the distance between him and Whitebeard, it rings even more true now and goes back to Mihawk's nature as far as like dispelling perception. I want to know the reality of the situation. It's just beautiful. One Piece is just beautiful. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just fanning out over this moment or these 3 chapters, but it doesn't get much better than this. It really doesn't. But I guess in One Piece it does. Anyway, guys, we could talk about what happened in this chapter as well, as far as Shanks' dialogue and then Blackbeard's dialogue about 100 million berry man. Of course, Luffy's bounty just got to 100 million, so he's the man that Blackbeard is aiming for, and how Ace is intertwined. Just like beautiful storytelling. Just great. Just amazing shit. Like, I'm sorry. It's just so good. It's just so good. Okay, I'm gonna finish it off. I promise. I'm done here. In the same chapter, 234, right? Rockstar goes back to Shanks and he tells him what Whitebeard did. Whitebeard like tore up the entire message that he delivered to him and said Shanks has to come himself. And then Lucky Roo asked him a question. What are we gonna do, Captain? He says he's gonna set sail to Whitebeard. And then Ben Beckman says, you think the world government will just sit by quietly if we did something like that? And then Shanks responds, now's not the time to be worried about stuff like that. It doesn't matter if the world government sits by quietly or not. If they try to interfere, then we won't sit by quietly either. It's interesting that we know Shanks literally goes to the world government and tells them or warns them about a pirate, meaning that it does matter if they sit quietly by. or not, right? Because if it didn't matter, why would you go to warn them about a certain pirate? So the perceptions that Shanks does not care about the world government, he's moving how he wants to move, which I think is partially true, but you want them to intervene, right? I also don't want to make it seem like I'm naive to the fact that he was speaking about a completely different situation, because we don't know exactly what pirate he was talking about. It could have been Blackbeard, but in this situation, he was talking about the world government making a move against him meeting with Whitebeard. But the situation is somewhat the same, in which he was going towards Whitebeard to tell Whitebeard not to intervene or to pull Ace out of it, but he's going to the world government to warn them of a pirate. Of course, we need some more context for that conversation, but I would never expect Shanks to be someone to go to the world government to talk to them about another pirate. Just insane. It's just so good. It's really top tier. Like, it's okay. I'm done now. I'm done. I'm really done. What do you think about all this? Just tell me, what do you think? I love One Piece. I do. If I stumble upon moments like this, I'm gonna make a video about it. I'm sorry, because I reread One Piece all the time, where I'm just going through, rummaging through chapters, and you stumble upon gems like this, and it's just too good. It's really just too damn good. But guys, give me your thoughts. Let me know if you like videos like this or enjoy videos or breakdowns like this. Follow me on Twitter at BroggoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BroggoD.ace. The truth of the situation was that I started reading about Dragon, right? Started rereading about Dragon to make a Dragon video. And then in the midst of that, I got fixed with Kuma, where I'm just reading so much about Kuma. And then in the midst of that, it led me to these series of chapters. One Piece is godly. I'm sorry. One Piece is the GOAT. It's just too good. Hunter x Hunter is too, but anyway, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BroggoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BroggoD.ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. Again, guys, like and subscribe to your boy. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.